Hello, my name is Tatiana Kalganova. I'm from Brunel University, London. You are watching the series of lectures about the application of philosophical principles to research process to ensure that we develop the necessary skills for critical thinking in building of research methodology. In this particular lecture, we will be looking how to apply objectivity and subjectivity to analysis of research process in such way that we can bring the output to the objective level. In previous lectures, we already learned two the most important things which is necessary for us. We learn about induction process, deduction process of our research process. We understood there are the main steps. Also, we understand about what does mean subjective, what does mean objective, what is influence of this definition subjectivity brings when we start to build up our research process constructors. Do you remember how difficult it was to construct the research process for finding the number of legs in elephant? What we are trying to learn now that we are trying to understand how good the research processes are in research papers is presented. The skills which we learned so far in previous lectures, we will try to apply for our research papers, and I will show you some answers how to do this. Let's start from beginning. The aim of our current session is to understand how subjectivity and objectivity principles can be applied to analysis of research process. At the end of a lecture, you will be able to demonstrate the theoretical understanding of these philosophical principles applied to research process, and most importantly, you will be able to analyze them to the level to say how good methodologically constructed research process is in one of the published papers. Before starting, as usual, we are looking only on high-quality journal papers. Remember, we are trying to learn from the best possible examples we have in your area, research area. You will have in front of you one state-of-art or review question paper in your research area. You will have 3 journal research papers related to your work. And think about your dissertation or recently completed project. We will be looking on analysis of all this for these particular cases. Let's get back. Previously, we already considered what does mean induction or deduction, and we tried to graphically represent this. What we learned so far is the following. Regardless of research process we construct, the outcome literature review will be always research question. Research question will lead our research process. Based on research question, we will start to look on data acquisition. What type of data we are using, how we are going to measure them, how we are going to collect them. Based on collected data, we will be looking on data analysis. What type of analysis we need to do to ensure that our research method is objective in providing the correct answer to our research question. Remember, our conclusion based on our research process must match our research question. Only in this particular case, our research process will become objective. One of the important elements in our analysis is literature review. If you will have a look, any papers, 4 papers you have in front of you, regardless, whichever you're engineer, social science, economist, from finance area, every single paper will start with literature review. You will definitely have literature review either an introduction or have separate section about this. What is important when we start to read our literature review, we need to start to understand the generation of this research question. Has it been influenced one particular direction, one particular works, or has it been influenced by objective understanding of overall work combined? For this particular case, there is a small trick to understand. Please open your bibliography on your research papers. Have a look. I have a snippet of our bibliography from one of research papers. What is important for us to understand when we start to look the snippet is what year of publication is. This will be our baseline to have a look. For example, we can say that our paper has been published in 2016. We know the year of publication. If we have 2016 as a year of publication, we know that any of the publications of a year has been defined previously must be covered up to 2016 or not later than this. Let's have a look in this particular case. Paper published in 2016. In this particular snippet, I will have publication is 2012, 2012, 2007, 2012, 2014, 2014, 2015, 2011, 2013, 2013, 2008, 2010. Can you see that this particular example covers the latest publication which could be found in this area? It means in terms of the years of papers distribution coverage, we are covering the most fresh, the most advanced literature, the most advanced work that has been done in this area. From this point of view, our literature review will be objective. It will be objective because it covers the most fresh work being published. Let's have a look from another point of view. When we have literature review, we need also to start to have a look from the point of view of who published this. Has all our work on literature review during generation of our research question was focused on one particular author, group of authors, or it was evenly distributed among? Okay, so and this is why it's important. So let's have a look. Do we have a lot of names in our literature review, in our examples that will repeat? In this particular case, we don't have. Our distribution of the author's publications is very much evenly. It means that when literature review has been completed for these particular research papers, for this snippet of research papers, it was generated based on objective point of view, because it was taken into account all possible authors which were working in this area. It's also because it was taken the most recent advances in this. It means research question formulated in this particular example will be providing the most actual, the most needed question needs to be answered. So this is how we define, is our literature review presented in our paper is objective or subjective? In this particular case, it's objective because the authors are distributed evenly and the most recent years of publications has been published, and there is no gaps in terms of literature review on publications that it may indicate that most likely all papers have been taken into account in literature review, the most important papers. Now, we've done our literature review. Have you seen that just looking one step of our research process, we can define whatever this process is objective or subjective? In this particular case, we can say that with literature review, it was subjective. Have you seen that there are techniques when I can bring to my conclusion and say what is the level of subjectivity and objectivity has been used in completion of this literature review? This is important for us to evaluate, because if you want to learn and publish at some point your papers, you need to make sure you're providing objective level of literature review, because reviewers of research papers will be estimating your quality of literature review at objectivity level. We just have a look how analysis of subjectivity objectivity on one particular step of research process is important for us to understand what are the boundaries and how our literature review objective or subjective. Let's have a look how can we carry out very similar analysis on every single step of research process. As a case study, let's have a look deduction in inquiry process. Just to remind you, what are the main steps we need to have a look? We need to define the purpose of research. We do literature review. Very often, literature review will justify the purpose of our research or to lead to generation of our research question. Then we generate hypotheses. We do data acquisition, data analysis, and conclusion. If your paper lies within deduction process, every single paper in the deduction process will follow this structural way. Let's have a look at two examples of analysis of research papers in this case. Bagosi et al. Its paper has been published in 2007. The aim of this paper was to study individual level and social level antecedent and examine key behavioral consequences of online social interactions. When we started to have a look in our literature review, we had very good distribution of the years. But have a look briefly. Paper has been published in 2007. Our literature review indicates that we were taking papers in 2002, 2002, 2000, and 99. Can you see that we have 5 years gap between paper being published and the last paper cited? In this particular case, I will be very careful about conclusion and generation of research question, because in this particular case, I will have a 5-year gap between the year 2007-2002. In the closer look, I will try to find out any research papers which may publish in this particular time slot. If my research will indicate no papers being published in this area, I can say that this literature review has been objective. If I will find out that there are some other papers that has been published in this year gap, it means this literature review has been subjective, and I need to take it into account the latest papers being published. Based on our research question, I generated a number of hypotheses. For this particular paper, we have 15 hypotheses being generated, and we need to test all of them. In order to test all these hypotheses, we were doing data acquisition based on 547 members of 7 different types of high and low interactivity online venues from 28 countries. When we start to analyze this type of data acquisition from objectivity, subjectivity point of view, can we have a look? We have covered different types, including 7 of them. We have covered 28 countries. So the data has been collected and in such way, and data acquisition has been organized in such way that it will eliminate subjectivity element. Based on our data acquisition, we have done data analysis. For this particular paper, we were using covariance analysis using ANOVA and SAM. Can you see that for analysis of this data has been used 2 different techniques? These 2 different techniques has been used to ensure we eliminate our subjectivity. Let's have a look and come back to our analysis. Our literature review has a 5 years gap, and we need to double check if there any papers has been published or not. If it was no point papers being published, it's become objective. We have our data being objective, our research techniques and data analysis being objective. We have a conclusion written down. Have you noticed that in our data, where all data has been related only to online venues and interactivity? In this particular case, all our conclusions, which we have found out, it will be subjective to online social interactivity. Regardless what the people, what the authors will write as a conclusion in our research papers, we can identify and we can draw our conclusion not only on conclusion written by the authors, but we can generate our own opinion. And sometimes you will find out that your opinion may not go in line with conclusions written by the authors. What is importantly, when we start to analyze this process, we need to double check, is conclusion drawn for this particular paper is answering our research question? Has the purpose of research has been achieved? Let's have a look and do analysis of another paper. This paper is by Wurtz, published in 2006. Let's try to do exactly the same analysis. The aim of the paper was to explore and identify the strategies used of high context cultures in utilizing the internet for communication and marketing purposes. Looking on the literature review, we have exactly the same problem. Paper was published in 2006, but the years which has been used for literature review, they are not very much adequate, and it will be worth to double check, has all literature review been used to discuss this point. First of all, we have a gap between 2006 and 2001. We have again 5-year gaps which has not been covered in literature review. As a result of literature review, we have research questions that has been generated and a number of hypotheses. In this particular case, 4 hypotheses has been defined. When we start to look on data acquisition process, the authors concentrated on McDonald's website in different countries, 5 different strategies, observation of 9 countries. Basically, what is happening, the authors, when they're trying to construct the data acquisition process, they were trying to eliminate the main subjectivity elements regarding the McDonald's websites. Our data acquisition process will be subjective to one particular website of one particular company, it's McDonald's, but it will be objective in relation to McDonald's company, because it will cover all possible options which and all possible variables which may influence and define correlation causation effect. For data analysis, it was used only qualitative analysis. As a result, when we start to draw conclusion, we start to have a look that our conclusion can be subjective to McDonald's site. We start to understand that there are some boundaries of research being published. We start to understand that these boundaries may influence our conclusion. And using this analysis of subjectivity and objectivity for every single step of our research process will help you to generate your own opinion about the paper, regardless what conclusion has been written down. Let's have a look at another example. Induction. Again, when we started to look in induction, we have literature review, we have data acquisition, data analysis, and conclusion. As repeat, for literature review is generating research question. For data acquisition, for example, in our induction process, we can use the data tested based on the number of algorithms. So it means all this data is tested using different type of algorithms. Data analysis will be performance comparison. So when we start to analyze this level of subjectivity, objectivity, we'll need to do again the author year analysis. We'll still need to do the analysis of objectivity, subjectivity of the data used in this paper, as well as research methods used, research techniques. As a result, for this particular paper, we may say, for example, research is objective, but conclusion can be subjective to one particular case. Another example, for example, looking for deduction, we can have a look on the literature review where we had hypothesis generated and data acquisition has been done for 4 company samples, 18 months, 500 observations, and we were using statistical analysis. Again, we can go through every single step of analysis, objectivity, subjectivity in our research process. And based on this, we can, for example, formulate that research is objective. But remember, whatever we're trying to formulate, we need to make sure that our data acquisition process answers our research question. Our data analysis is constructed in such a way that we are trying to answer this research question. Our conclusion must help us to answer this question. Let's have a look at another example. We have a look speak about induction. So from induction, for example, from literature survey, we can have a research question, and we can do some collection of experimental data using interviews only. And your data analysis, our data analysis will be correlation of research question and experimental data. So when start to look on what type of data we use, for example, it was 20 small firms over 24 months. When we started to look on the data, we know the conclusions and the results drawn for these particular papers, they will be applied for the small companies only, for SME companies. So it means we start to understand the boundaries of this research which can be applied. The conclusions has been drawn for this research, they may be applied for SME. It doesn't matter, it's going to be true if we try to apply for the larger companies. Another limitations which we need to start to be care about and be very careful, it's interviews only. Remember, interviews, they are bringing quite high level of subjectivity. That's why, for example, in data analysis, researchers were using correlation between research question and experimental data, trying to remove subjectivity element. Let's have a look, another example of our deduction process. Let's assume that literature review haven't got any problems and it has been properly reviewed and it was objective. We have hypothesis generation, which generates a number of research hypotheses. We have a data acquisition. We have 4 company samples. We have 18 months, 500 observations, and we were using statistical analysis to have a look. Looking into all this, we can say, for example, that our research model can be related to one data set only, but subjective to similar types of data sets. One limitation which is important, that the reader has been looking at the paper, that conclusion may try to generalize the outcomes to far wider data sets. And in this particular case, you need to be aware that the conclusion written on this particular paper not necessarily has been tested on the number of data sets and has not been demonstrated that it could be transferable with particular research method from one research method to another one. Now, we went and have a look at a number of cases, case studies, when we're trying to look on analysis of research paper from subjectivity, objectivity point of views. You have 4 papers in front of you. Can you please open up your induction deduction summary of each research process of research paper and try to complete analysis of objective, subjective objectivity, subjectivity. For example, for literature review, you need to make sure is literature review objective or subjective. Remember, have a look distribution of the years, distribution of the authors. Are your data objective or subjective? Do they cover the scope of your research question? Are your research techniques objective, or subjective? Do you need to introduce another research techniques to remove subjectivity element if it exists in your research paper? Do research techniques support your research question? So does your conclusion reflect research methods is constructed? Does your conclusions answers the question set up? Take your time and try to do analysis of this induction process. I'm pretty sure you will find very surprising results when you start to analyze these papers. Press and pause, get back. Now, when you started to look on this analysis, and you've done maybe hopefully already analysis of all these 4 papers, have you noticed once you start to do this analysis, you started to generate your own opinion about the papers. You start to clearly to say what is good, what is bad about this paper, but from methodological point of view. You start to understand the boundaries of this paper, how construction of research question has been done, how adequate literature review, and so on. But have you noticed if you've done all analysis for these research papers and literature review analysis, that analysis of literature review paper slightly differs from other papers? And one of the main point of this, because our data in literature review papers is actually research papers. And if you haven't done this analysis and you find it very difficult, get back to analysis your research paper and have a look. Your data in literature review paper must be papers by itself. Now, we've done what we learned so far. We learned very important skills. We started to learn how to analyze the research process, methodological issues of research process from objectivity, subjectivity point of view. Hopefully by now you understand. If you're analyzing this research process from objectivity, subjectivity, it helps you to start to generate your own opinion about this paper fairly quickly. And it builds up your confidence, understanding how important is this research area and what the boundaries are without looking on their conclusion of abstract. If you've done this correctly, by now, you can take any research papers going on, which you haven't opened before in your research area, and try to complete the same analysis. You will be surprised how quickly you can start to generate your own opinion. I wish you good luck, and I hope this did help you. See you in the next lecture. Bye.